Greetings and welcome to the History of Fright. I'm your host, Michael Verratti, and I'm going to be taking you on a tour of terror through some of the genre's most beloved entities. This week, we're going to be raising the dead. One look at the cultural landscape and there's little denying. We're just rabid for zombies. Shows and comics like The Walking Dead and its spin-offs, as well as movies like 28 Days Later and Shaun of the Dead, speak to our unending, insatiable desire for content featuring endless hordes of the living dead.
Those displayed by their attackers.
But did you know that most of the trademark tropes of the zombie genre that we know and love today can most directly be attributed to one man who not only had a love of fright, but an interest in using it as a means for challenging the establishment? George A. Romero is a name that has become synonymous with the horror genre. His work on such classic films as Creepshow, The Crazies, Monkey Shines, and the TV show Tales from the Dark Side has forever cemented his place in the hearts of Fright fans. But it is unquestionably his work in the world of zombies that has made him an undisputed pop culture legend. Born in the Bronx, but most closely identified with the city of Pittsburgh, Romero began his career in the Steel Town after college, shooting commercials and segments for children's TV icon Mr. Rogers. In fact, Romero shot a segment where Mr. Rogers went to have a tonsillectomy, and if that's not graphic horror, I don't know what is. Around this time, George and several of his friends formed a production company, and their first film, a little project Romero co-wrote with horror writer John Russo called Night of the Living Dead. Originally titled Night of Anubis, the soon-to-be classic wasn't even initially intended to be a zombie film. In fact, the word zombie is never actually used in Night of the Living Dead, instead referring to the newly reanimated as ghouls.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
A bit of trivia Edgar Wright paid homage to when making Shaun of the Dead decades later.
We're coming to get you, Barbara!
Of course, there's good reason Romero and his crew maybe didn't initially have zombies in mind when making the movie. Their brand of zombies didn't really exist yet. Though zombies had been portrayed in film prior to Romero, it was often with regard to the voodoo-based origins of the zombie myth, such as in 1932's White Zombie starring Bela Lugosi. In fact, the closest anyone ever got to Romero's brand of mischief was Hammer Films' Plague of the Zombies, which came a mere year before Night of the Living Dead. With one film, Romero and company introduced the world to all of the tropes that have become defining factors of the modern zombie story. The dead rise with a taste for people, and only a bullet to the brain will stop them in their tracks. Throw in a group of scrappy survivors just hoping to make it until morning, and you've got the recipe for almost every flesh-eater tale that followed. But Night of the Living Dead did so much more than introduce a new definitive take on a monster. The true impact of the movie lies within what that monster represents. In an era where the film industry's diversity representation was practically non-existent, Romero cast Duane Jones, an African-American man, to play the film's lead. Considering the climate of the era, critics and filmgoers alike couldn't help but draw parallels to the world outside and this tale of an individual fighting to survive against faceless masses that were trying to take his humanity away. The subtext was clear. This was more than a mere horror film, it was a statement. Romero would continue to use zombies as a catalyst for social and political commentary as his Dead movies moved forward, spooling into a franchise that became a cornerstone of the genre. In Dawn of the Dead, Romero trapped his protagonists in a shopping mall, and the faceless horde unquestionably became a critique of consumer culture, as I'm sure anyone who shopped on Black Friday can agree.
You never know.
And in Day of the Dead, the story's army bunker setting made way to an indictment of the military-industrial complex. And that, even beyond the well-known tropes that he introduced to the zombie genre, is George Romero's greatest impact. If you look at the landscape of zombie movies, TV, and stories as they exist today, the strongest among them always focus on the human element of the tale, often serving as a critique or revealing kernel of truth about the moment of time from which they came. The focus in the 80s of zombie movies spreading like a virus runs parallel to the AIDS crisis, and is even reflected in modern pandemic films today, like 28 Days Later. Also, The Walking Dead's focus on government collapse and corrupt leadership seems strangely prescient in today's political climate. In summary, George Romero didn't just make zombies what they are today by helping define their characteristics as fictional monsters, he also gave them real bite by showcasing their ability to serve as a mechanism of commentary on a world of true monsters, people. Ultimately, this is why zombies continue to engage and entrance audiences, because though we may not want to admit it, we see a little bit of ourselves in them. After all, behind each and every zombie was a person just like you. Chew on that for a bit. Until next time. Thank you for watching History of Fright. If you like what you saw, we'll be back with more spooky content for you next week. And if you want more horror content, make sure you visit our friends over at Dread Central, and make sure to tune in to Gamma Ray.